have two examples. Judy Foster, who is an American actress, speaks French fluently. The man who lives next door is a teacher. Judy Foster speaks French fluently and the man is a teacher. These in English are called main clauses. What about who is an American actress and who lives next door? These in English are called relative clauses. So what do we mean by relative clauses? Let's go back to the first example. Who is an American actress? Here this clause gives extra information about the American actress Judy Foster. In the second example, who lives next door, here this clause shows which person we are talking about. Which man? The man who lives next door. From these two examples, we understand that relative clauses define or give more information about the noun before. There is another thing about relative clauses. As you may notice from these two examples, they begin with something called in English relative pronoun or relative adverbs. There are two types of relative clauses. Let's study again the same examples. Let's start with the first sentence. Judy Foster, who is an American actress, speaks French fluently. Do you think it is okay to say Judy Foster speaks French fluently? Yes, it is. Why? Because who is an American actress is just an extra information about Judy Foster. Judy Foster is a definite noun. It doesn't need any other word to define it. Such kind of clauses in English are called non-restrictive clauses or non-defining clauses. They are just additional information. What does it mean? It means that they can be omitted and it will not affect the meaning if you omit them. That's why we separate them from the main clause by using commas. Let's move now to the second sentence. The man who lives next door is a teacher. Here, is it okay to say the man is a teacher? No. Why? Who lives next door is essential and important to the meaning. Which man we are talking about? The one who lives next door. So here this clause is a restrictive clause, a defining clause. It defines the noun before. So it is important and it can't be omitted. That's why we don't use any commas to show that this clause is important. Let's move now to relative pronouns. Here we have some examples that we are going to study. Let's start with the first sentence. What was the name of the woman who phoned? Here the relative pronoun is who. Why who? Because the noun before refers to a person. Who can function as a subject and object pronoun for people. Let's move now to the second example. The woman whom I wanted to see was away. Here the relative pronoun is whom. Why whom? Because the noun before refers to a person. But you need to be careful with whom. Whom can only function as an object pronoun for people. It's not like who, which can be a subject or object pronoun for people. There is another thing about whom is only used in formal English. Let's move now to the third sentence. The machine which broke down is working again now. Here the relative pronoun is which. Why which? Because the noun before refers to a thing. So here we are not talking about a person. So from this example we learn that which can function as subject or object pronoun for things and animals. Let's move now to the last example. Here whose is the relative pronoun. Here we are not talking about subject or object pronoun. Here we just want to show that this car is owned by these people. So whose refers to something owned by or related to someone or something. Whose replaces possessive adjectives like his, her, its, and their. Let's study again the three first examples. So, as we said before, here we can use these relative pronouns, who, whom, or which, or we can use another relative pronoun which is that. So we can say, what was the name of the woman that phoned? the woman that I wanted to see was away, or the machine that broke down is working again now. So from these examples we learned that that can function as subject or object pronoun for people, things and animals, but you need to be careful with that because it is only used in defining clauses. So how can I know if the relative pronoun like who, whom, that or which is a subject or object pronoun? It's easy. Let's study the following examples. So the woman who lives next door is a nurse. Here the relative pronoun is who. What's after who? A verb. So it means that the relative pronoun here is a subject pronoun. Let's move to the second example. The woman who or whom I wanted to see was away. Here the relative pronoun is followed by subject. What does it mean? Whom or who here is an object pronoun. So if you want to know if the relative pronoun is subject or object pronoun, all you need to do is to look at what's after this relative pronoun. If it is followed by a verb, so then it is subject pronoun. If it is followed by a subject, so then it is an object pronoun. It's the same with which. So here the bus which goes to the airport runs every half hour. Here which is followed by verb. What does it mean? Which here is a subject pronoun. The last example, the dress which Anna bought doesn't fit her very well. Here which is followed by a subject. It means that which here is an object pronoun. It's the same with that. So if that is followed by a verb, so then it is subject pronoun. If it is followed by a subject, so then it is an object pronoun. So why we are talking about subject and object pronouns? Because if the relative pronoun is an object pronoun, so it can be omitted. If it is subject pronoun, so then it can't be omitted. For example, in the first example, the woman who lives next door is a nurse. Here you can't say the woman lives next door is a nurse. Here it's incorrect. Why? Because the relative pronoun here is a subject pronoun. While in the second example, the woman who or whom I wanted to see was away, here you can omit the relative pronoun and you can just say the woman I wanted to see was away. Why? Because it is an object pronoun. It's the same with these two examples. The bus which goes to the airport runs every half hour. Here you can't omit the relative pronoun. You can't say the bus goes to the airport runs every half hour. Here this sentence is incorrect. Why? Because the relative pronoun is subject pronoun. In the second example, you can omit the relative pronoun which. You can just say the dress Anna bought doesn't fit her very well. It is correct. Why? Because the relative pronoun here is an object pronoun. Let's move now to the last section of this lesson. It's about relative adverbs. Let's study these examples. Let's start with the first sentence. The restaurant in which we had lunch was near the airport. Here the relative clause is in which we had lunch, and since we are talking about restaurant, which is a place, so instead of using in which, you can use where. So where is a relative adverb for place. Let's move now to the second example. Sunday is the day on which I can relax. So here the relative clause is on which I can relax, and since we are talking about day, which is time, so instead of using on which, you can just use when. So when is a relative adverb for time. Let's move to the last example. The reason for which I am phoning is to ask your advice. Here the relative clause is for which I am phoning, and since we are talking about reasons, so instead of using for which, we can just use why. So why is the relative adverb for reason. So these are the different relative adverbs we have: where, when, and why.